The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNCNow.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. Our passion transforms a community channel that sees all things new. I am Jennifer Nuya, streaming from Cavite, Philippines, and you're watching the Disruptor's Hour on TNC. We're thrilled to have you here and can't wait to deep dive into the dynamic and ever-evolving topics of leadership, innovation, change management, transformation, and of course, disruption. Whether you're a seasoned leader, a change maker, or someone who is passionate about making a difference, we believe you'll find our show to be engaging, informative, and most importantly, inspiring. Our show is designed to help you grow your leadership skills, navigate change with confidence, drive transformational innovation, and harness the power of disruption to create new opportunities for success. If it's your first time tuning in to the Disruptor's Hour on TNC, our expert guests will share valuable insights, strategies, and best practices that will help you excel not only in your personal but also professional endeavors. But before we proceed with today's conversation with our guest, a quick word from our partner organization. See you in a few minutes.
Scientists and policymakers around the world are well aware of humankind's current trajectory towards the devastation of its only and precious home, planet Earth. At unprecedented rates, living species are going extinct. Glaciers and ice caps are melting. Air pollution worsens. And we keep piling up plastics and trash in our oceans and rivers. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and discouraged by such a disheartening trend. A battle that greed, consumption, and unwavering ambition seems to be winning, leading all of us to an extinction-level event. Most efforts over the last 50 years to reverse climate change have failed. Governments at the national levels prioritize local politics and vote-winning initiatives. Companies are designed to exceed profit expectations in order to survive. International institutions are often bureaucratic and biased, and social media has often done more harm than good. The clock is ticking, and key universal indicators point to the need to substantially revert the trend in the next 7 years to avoid the point of no return. So how can we turn this ship around? We must wake up and come together in effective collaboration to jointly get out of the mess we've gotten ourselves into, for the many millions of lives at stake, for the benefit of us all. World System Solutions, WSS, is an NGO with a vision to unite, mobilize, and align humanity in common purpose to solve the climate crisis. WSS offers educational and climate change awareness workshops, guided by profound ethical and spiritual values, and a conviction that through consciously choosing to collaborate, we can reach our personal and collective potential, and synergistic cooperation to reverse the climate crisis and reach harmony amongst ourselves and with our planet. WSS intends to help humanity arrive at the collective agreements and aligned intentions necessary to attain global sustainability. We're building Phoenix, the first comprehensive technology platform to boost humanity's collective creative efforts to build a better world from the ashes of our past choices. Phoenix will radically accelerate global collaboration and innovation. It is designed and built with the guidance of ethics-based collective leadership, fully committed to serve all human beings equally and the planet as a whole. We're already developing Phoenix's first module, Climate Scale, aimed at mitigating greenhouse gas emissions by offering a one-stop shop for all carbon and methane credit projects through a platform that will reduce the risk of greenwashing and unify and supercharge the now fragmented efforts happening around the world. It will also facilitate access to the latest data and expertise, bringing together leaders, researchers, experts, projects, and resources to mitigate the greenhouse gases emissions challenge. We can change. We can do this together. Whether you're a youth activist, a committed politician, a generous philanthropist, a visionary transformational champion, an innovative project leader, or a sustainability expert, come and join the WSS team and be part of the solution the world needs today for our planet and for the future of all living species and our very own children.
The world transformation process will affect all of us, and every voice is relevant as we move the needle on climate change and environmental protection in the next 7 years. You are a vital piece of the puzzle, and our collaboration will be the thread that weaves together the fabric of our efforts into a harmony quilt for the planet. There are several ways that we can interact with World System Solutions. So we are flashing on the screen the links that you can click on or copy for later use. You can click to donate and support world transformation. And you can also collaborate in this vital effort to co-create a sustainable and better future for the planet. So on to the show. To make the most use or the best use of our time together, we encourage you to turn off all distractions, prepare to take notes, mental win, and just be fully focused on our guest today. We are so happy to have dropping in on our show, Charlotte Kemp. Thank you for joining us today, Charlotte.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Can you please share, Charlotte, a brief background about yourself and the work that you do so that our viewers can get to know you more?
Thank you so much. I kind of straddle two different fields in my work. One is professional speaking. And Jennifer and I discovered we'd both spoken at the same online conference 2 years ago, which was wonderful to discover. So I'm a professional speaker, I'm a keynoter, and I volunteer a lot in the leadership space of the speaking world because I believe that the professional speakers who stand on stages and deliver keynotes or run workshops or facilitate events or do online webinars or write books to support the content that they're sharing, they are the change makers. They are the original influencers that allow us to consider different ways of being in our world. So I'm very inspired to be in the company of people who make global changes around our world. And then I am personally a futurist. So I actually study with other futurists. We learn all of the different models and business techniques and futures thinking mindsets that allow us to imagine different futures. How, if we're going in one direction and we don't want to go in that direction, just as we saw in that opening video, we can actually create a different scenario, a different picture of where we can be, and we can take practical steps now to go in that direction. And a lot of my work is dealt with not with the big futures projects, which are amazing, but with helping everyday leaders and everyday teams actually grasp the fact that they have agency, they have power over the future, and that there are things that we can do when we have a very intentional approach to that.
That's wonderful. I totally agree with you that speakers are change makers. That's why I feel that we have a very big responsibility to use our influence for good. And here on the new channel. Our hashtag is Digital for Good because we want as much as possible to influence good in the world. And you mentioned earlier about you becoming a futurist. So can you speak more about how you became from becoming a speaker to a futurist?
Yeah, thank you. So I was speaking on a particular topic. I was actually talking about social media and teaching people how to use digital tools and opening up these different ideas to them. And I spent probably about 12 years doing that as a speaker and a workshop leader and a trainer. And while it was good work and I felt like I was making a difference in some people's lives who now had the opportunity to go online and do things and reach people that they couldn't before, I also kind of felt a little bit like I was, not that I wasn't doing enough, but that if I was going to invest my life in something, I wanted it to last longer than a tweet. So I started looking to find something a little bit more meaningful. And I actually went back to a coach, a career guidance coach. We should all feel free to turn to people and get support at whatever stage we are in our careers. And she took me through a whole lot of things that helped me to understand who I was and what I really valued. And then together we discovered an incredible program. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa, and it was at Stellenbosch University, which is just up the road from me. And it is a futures thinking course. It's a postgraduate diploma. And I signed up for that. And just in the orientation week of that course, my mind was blown about what is possible, what is available, how we can actually think about the future, how we don't need to be victims to the future. I felt like I'd come home. These were my people. And I really enjoyed it. I joined the Association of Professional Futurists the moment I discovered that they existed, and I started connecting. So now I work in that space. And just as if there are many different speakers, different styles of speaking and the work that we can do, there's many different styles of futurists, and some do big research projects and they work with organizations to really understand the whole kind of trajectory of their sector or their industry. And other people kind of workshop scenarios, and other people do a lot of work about trends. And then the work that I do is to kind of just paint that picture and create these scenarios and ideas that there is more available. And then people can start on a journey to discover what they can actually do in their lives and their careers and with their children's education and in the work that they do.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned about different trajectories, different scenarios for futures thinking and futures creation. So does that mean that everybody has a space in it, or does it take a certain skill set for you to be a futurist?
All right. So we can talk about the scenarios shortly, but the actual concept about being a futurist, and I know that my colleagues, especially during COVID, a lot of people were trying to find new things. And anybody who had any idea about disruption or innovation, they called themselves a futurist all of a sudden. And my professional colleagues were going, everybody calls themselves a futurist. And quietly I'm going, yay, because I believe all of us humans are futurists. We all are natural futurists because we look to the future, we plan our careers, we plan for retirement, we have insurance policies for health in case we get sick. So we have all those things in place. We look at our children or the next generation of leaders in our organization, and we prepare them with experiences and education and skills so that they can do amazing things when they are in the positions to do so. So we're all anticipating the future, but we don't always understand. We're not doing it intentionally. We don't have a plan for it. We just kind of like doing some stuff that we've been told to do, and we're missing out on the opportunity to really think comprehensively. So, for example, some of the webinars I do, I really try and find people around the world to come into my webinars because I want to hear from different people. So I've got leaders, I've got other futurists on my calls, I've got people in every different kind of sector. And in one particular workshop, my daughter joined, and she's in university. She was studying in a finance degree, and she's very supportive of her mom, which is lovely. But she sat there and she'd heard my stuff before, but she'd never really worked through the whole program, in the workshop to see how it worked. And when we finished, she said, "Mom, this is great. Now I know what I can do for my future." And that is what I want us to have, that we feel like we've got some control over the future. because a lot of our anxiety comes from a loss of control, a bewilderment because we don't know what is happening. Some people want to be disruptors, others are just being disrupted and they don't know how to respond. So the more we feel like we've got some tools to work with, the better we can be. And then we all have power and influence over the future, much more than we imagine that we do.
That's wonderful. That must be exciting to be able to gather in one room and speak with other futurists. So you mentioned that we are all natural futurists, right? But you are also speaking about conscious futurism. So can you tell us more about that?
Thank you. So being a conscious futurist is a concept that kind of evolved from some of the struggles that we were having during COVID. And, we all were, around the world, we had different kinds of rules about being locked down or homestays or, not being free to travel around and mix in big groups. And we all had to have masks on and people were very scared. And here in South Africa, in the first few weeks of what we experienced here, when we were all told to go home, people's anxieties and fears and I was more concerned about the emotional toll on people than the actual illness itself, the pandemic, because people felt such a loss of control and such anxiety. And as I was working through it and talking to people and seeing how people were reaching out to each other, I kind of got this picture in my mind of this spiral. So we'd be familiar with, there's a whole lot of models like spiral dynamics and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's kind of like that. But for me, it was very simple. There's a spiral that constantly moves and we're moving up the spiral or down. So it's not like one of those things where you reach a plateau and now you're here and you can just rest for a while. If you stop on the spiral, you slip down. So the bottom kind of segment of the spiral is we're in a survival state. We're saying, am I okay? Are my children okay? People in my home right now, are we safe? Do we have food? Are we okay? And our time frame is very small and our circle of concern is really tight. And once we know that we're safe, we can move past survival and we can be responsible. Then we can look to the next layer of people that we're concerned about. And we can look for the next week or so. So our time span grows. And then the next level is being invested. And now we're not just being responsible, but we're investing into the future. We're, giving our children some tools to go and explore the world in a safe way. And we're concerned about people that are beyond us. And we're concerned about next year and not just, next month. And then the next layer of the spiral as we go up, we become conscious futurists. We're not just invested futurists or responsible futurists. We're conscious about the impact we have on the world. We're conscious of what it means for the next generation and the next generation of our actions and decisions and how we vote today. And then the top layer is a transcendent futurist. And that is someone who just literally does things that will alter the world forever, whether it's in the headlines or whether it just really is a groundswell of support of some kind of concept. So as we move up and down that, it's important for us to recognize where we are because something could happen to us. We want to be conscious futurists. We want to invest in the world and in the future and in next generations. We want to make the right kind of decisions. But something could happen. There could be an illness at home. There could be a personal crisis. And we slip down that spiral into survival, into responsible mode for a little while. And we need to give ourselves the grace to do that. So I think it's a lovely model to allow ourselves to see where we are, to aspire to something more in the future, and also to recognize in the people we work with that while we might today have a beautiful, transcendent vision of the world, the person that we're talking to might have a crisis at the moment, and they are just trying to get through the day. So it helps us to deal with that. And then together, eventually we're moving up the spiral, creating more beautiful futures.
That's a beautiful thing that you highlighted there, that once you have ascended the spiral, there will be some times due to personal circumstances or external circumstances beyond your control that will, even if you're already in the transcendent, there is a possibility that you will still spiral down. Now, once we are conscious about that spiral, how can we be more mindful? Okay, so that we can overcome the challenges that okay, so I feel that I am spiraling down. How can I stay in a much better place or in a much better mindset?
Yeah, there are so many things, and I like how you started with kind of being mindful of these things. My daughters and I talk very often, and it's so interesting to see this next generation of young people who have some insights that we didn't have. And I was saying to them this last weekend that they think about things, they are aware of things that it took me an additional 2 decades to learn in my space. So I'm delighted that they have that awareness now, and it just means that we can make better progress. And obviously there are lots of things happening in the world that that we might agree with, that we might disagree with, that leave us feeling uncomfortable or leave us, excited about what could come. But there are all these disruptions. And I think the very first part is to recognize that we as human beings, we're not very good with change. We're not good when change happens to us. So we're good when we initiate change. So if we say, if we go to the doctor and we go for a checkup and the doctor says, oh, you're overweight and your cholesterol is too high and your blood pressure is too high and you have to go on a diet and you have to start exercising, then somebody is telling us what to do. And we get a lot of that. In COVID, people told us what to do, and governments told us what to do, and people rebelled against being told what to do. But if you wake up on your birthday and you go, you know what, I want to be more energetic, I want to play with the children, I want to go and have great adventures. So I know I'm carrying a bit too much weight, my cholesterol's too high, my blood pressure's too high, I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to start exercising. And then it comes from us. And I think that awareness, the minute we become mindful of the fact that there are things happening in the world that make us feel uncomfortable just because somebody else told it to us, as opposed to it coming from us, that's the first step to being able to embrace that. And then to just start relaxing a little bit more and allowing ourselves to see what is happening and not judge everything automatically as good or bad. Because the minute we label something, it's really difficult to say that's bad. And then after a while, you realize, actually, there's a lot of, validity in that. But now I've already told everybody I think it's bad. And I don't want to look like I'm flip-flopping in my opinions. So let's just be open and have conversations and see what is happening. And then as we kind of work through that, we begin to build the capacity for actually starting to create the futures we want. But the first thing is to be mindful of where we're at and then open to see what is coming in front of us.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Charlotte. It's wonderful to know about conscious futurism and how we as human beings have personal agency on how to create that different futures for us. So we'll go for a short break. And when we come back, we will continue to discuss how our personal agency, how our values can help us more in creating different futures.
Are you aiming to gain admission to UP, Ateneo, LaSalle, or UST? Partner with AHEAD, the leading and most awarded tutorial and review center in the country, and we'll get you to your dream school. Visit our website to know more. Are you aiming to gain admission to UP, Ateneo, LaSalle, or UST? Partner with AHEAD, the leading and most awarded tutorial and review center in the country, and we'll get you to your dream school. Visit our website to know more.
The new channel is an online, alternative new media platform of online shows for people on the go. We know you're busy, so we've made it easy for you to enjoy your customized playlist of engaging, authentic, and original content. TNC is your passport to a world of Filipino talent, global influencers, cultural intelligence, and ingenuity. One of our most exciting shows is the Disruptors Hour, airing every Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Philippine Standard Time, which covers everything from leadership and transformation to innovation and disruption, all curated with you, our viewers, in mind. And the best part, you can watch our life-changing best shows anytime, anywhere, live or on replay via Facebook or YouTube. Follow us on IG, listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search hashtag TNCNow. We're always looking for new partnerships and sponsorships, so if you're interested in working with us, please email now@thenewchannel.com or send us a DM. Please watch our shows because we made them just for you. So before we went on the break, we were chatting with Charlotte Kemp. Charlotte Kemp is a Futures Alchemist, a Futures Keynote speaker who works with organizations to co-create preferred futures. Charlotte is a past president of the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, president-elect of the Global Speakers Federation, and maintains membership of the Association of Professional Futurists. She is also the author of a number of books, including Futures Alchemist, which presents a narrative of how to use her map, compass, and guide model to navigate unknown futures. She is also the Chief Relationship Officer for Voices into Africa, an events company seeking to raise the profile of speakers, events, and collaborations across Africa. Charlotte's signature talk is Become the Conscious Futurist Your Industry Needs Now, and explores ways to intentionally create changes that will usher in our preferred future for our own industries. So let's welcome back Charlotte into our show.
Hi, Jennifer.
Welcome back to the show, Charlotte.
Thank you very much.
All right, so you have your Futures Alchemist book. Would you like to share more about the future and the compass that can help guide people to become natural, conscious futurists and create their preferred futures?
Thank you. I've found very often when we talk about big ideas that it can feel quite overwhelming for people. And when I was trying to write this book, I was struggling with, I was delighted with all the models that I was finding that were out there. But it just, even to me, it felt a little overwhelming, like there was so much going on. So I've been trying to find ways to kind of simplify this. And one of the approaches, for example, is a kind of like a 3-stage part, is that before we can take real ownership over the future, before we can create those preferred futures, is that we need to get our mindset right. We need to not feel like victims. We need to know that there are choices, there are actions we can take, and what they look like. And we need to have a mind focused on embracing disruption and innovation and change, as opposed to automatically rejecting it. So once we've got our mindset sorted out, then we can look at the skills, and we have we can look at the tool set. And there are so many tools, lots of tools that we would already know about, but also in the futures world, things like trends and scenario planning and understanding the axes of uncertainty and the futures wheel, all these things that kind of happen as a consequence of other changes. So we got all these tools and we need to become familiar with them. Like if you were starting a woodworking project, or if you were going to create leatherwork, you need to understand the tools that you're working with. And once we've done that, then we need to practice and use them, and then we develop the skill set. And once we've got a skill as a futurist, then we actually have some power and impact over our lives, our organizations, our teams, etc. So I was excited about all of that, and then trying to put this into a nice big book, and it just felt overwhelming and like a textbook, and nobody wants to read a textbook. So I tried something novel for myself, which I hadn't tried, so I felt very disrupted. But I wrote the book as a narrative, as if it was a young woman who had just come into the financial services sector, like my daughter was doing, and like I had started when I first started working. And she discovers all of these futures tools, and she tries to apply them to the work that is happening in a very old-fashioned, very old company that she was working in. And they did not want to hear about these ideas because they've always done it this way, and why should they change? And so then eventually she leaves that company and she goes to work for a financial startup. And they're open to new ideas and models to make the work that they're doing better. And then they use that to apply to some of their clients to help them develop different products. And then some people use it to apply to their careers so they have more opportunities. And so it was a lovely way to just express in a narrative way to be able to explain all of these different tools and show people how they can work. So I really enjoyed that. So what I've done with my model when I work with organizations is I say, we need a map of time. Where have we come from? Where are we now in this moment that we're sharing? And where do we hope to go in the future? We have some people want to go in one direction and other people want to go in another direction. And the tension between those two choices is really difficult to transcend. And how are we going to deal with that? So it's a map of time. And then we need a compass, and the compass encompasses all of the tools that we have, so we know which direction we're going in. And then we need a guide to go into the future. So in my first conversations, I am the guide, but I want to very quickly pass on that mantle to the next person so that they can be a guide in their family or their team. And so it's just a nice model to be able to say to people, the future is unknown, but we're not without tools and options and opportunities to move into that future together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. In your years of research and also working with different people from different industries, are there other industries that are more ready to be more consciously creating the future? And are there any industries that are still lagging behind?
Oh, that's interesting, because it's not necessarily the industries, but more about the companies within the industry. So in any industry, you'll find some people are very innovative and others are very kind of stuck in the past. There's a lovely quotation, which we get to say almost every day, is the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And it was by a science fiction futurist writer called William Gibson. And that is so true, because we see these innovative things. So in Africa in particular, there are some incredibly innovative ways of doing financial services. And yet there are still some very old-fashioned companies that want to do things the old way. So, for example, one of the things that we may all be familiar with is being able to go onto your smartphone and do online internet banking. You know, we can all do that now. But for a lot of people, you know, in more remote parts of Africa who are not near big cities, they don't have big incomes, they don't have smartphones. They have the old-fashioned analog, well, the old-fashioned digital cell phones. And they can do banking, they can make payments, they can make savings, they can buy insurances, all through text on their phones. Not the nice fancy apps that we've got, but they can actually do text banking. And it's a product called M-Pesa that was started in Kenya. And that kind of thing is very innovative because it's meeting a very specific need. It's just not flashy like we might see at an Apple launch, for example. So yeah, so financial services, health, very innovative. And again, lots of work happening in agriculture that is very innovative, but still many organizations just kind of sticking in the past and not trying to move things forward. I think is a risk for anybody in any industry to say, you know, the future isn't disrupting me. Artificial intelligence isn't a problem for me. We've seen all the disruptions. It's not going to happen to my sector or to my company. The minute we think like that, our mindset is shutting down and trying to keep us in a safe place that we feel familiar with, but it's actually putting us at risk because we're not open to what those changes are, and we must embrace them.
Thank you for sharing that. It's not about the device or the technology, but rather how we leverage it.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So earlier, you quickly discussed before we went on a break about having your personal agency and also having your values helping you create your preferred future. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. I always need to kind of confess, because you know, for years in the work that I've done, I've always kind of dismissed people who talked about values. It's kind of like, oh, that's nice, but it's not practical. And then when I got into the futures world and I started understanding what it is that we are creating and what we take for granted, what we assume is just the way it's always been, this is the way it's supposed to be, this is the way it will always be in the future, which that means I just inherited a bunch of values without ever actually looking at them for myself. So I started, and because I'm kind of analytical, I started in a very practical way to look at my values. And I went online and I tried like 7 different values exercises. And eventually I downloaded all the values I could find into a document, and I started sorting them through and evaluating and comparing them. And the thing about values is that almost all the values are good values, but some are more relevant to me than other values might be, and in the work that I do. And so for me, I discovered that agency was a really, really high value, as was creativity and workmanship, you know, people actually producing a beautiful piece of work. I really, really appreciate that. And transcendence, you know, just meaning that we're in a situation, but we can rise above that situation or beyond that situation. We're not trapped by it. So when I started looking at my values, I started realizing that a lot of the things I took for granted, I don't actually appreciate. So we're all kind of raised with, you know, we need to get good education so that we can get a good job and we can get ahead in a big company and we can earn lots of money. And we have this driving ambition that is instilled in us from an early age. And while for some people ambition is good, most people aren't that ambitious. They want to create, they want to relate, they want to do meaningful things. They're not pursuing big salaries and big flashy cars. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not relevant for everyone. And when a person realizes that is not what I actually value, then they can explore what they do value and they can do more meaningful work. And that means when we look at our organizations and companies and our economies that are set up for constant, ever increasing growth, we must make profit. Our GDP must go up. The country must earn more money and generate more income. The more we pursue that, the more we destroy what we have. We destroy our planet. We destroy our relationships. We destroy our health because we're pursuing this unrelenting growth pursuit. When you realize your values are different, then you can actually go, that doesn't matter to me. There are other ways economies can work for a country. It does not need to mean that it is always more people, larger populations spending more money and paying more taxes. So yeah, we really need to challenge what we assume about ourselves and our companies and our countries once we start to understand our own values.
Thank you for emphasizing that. I think the old model of business is all about, as you mentioned, profit, about productivity. And I think that it's about time that we are more conscious about our purpose as a business. That as we are trying to also make money for us, of course, we have families to support. We are also conscious of the effect that we have on the wider community on the planet. We can always not only survive but thrive, but not at the expense of the other species of the planet, right? So it's so sad if, for example, I imagine if we continue the way that we are doing right now, we can have lots of money. We can have lots of money, but what is the use of your money if you don't have any natural food to eat anymore, if all the rivers and the oceans are all polluted? So right now we have what we call a keyhole perspective, really long-term thinking. So we need to have rather short-term thinking. So we need to have long-term thinking, and we need to be more conscious about the preferred future that we want. So if I may ask, Charlotte, what is your preferred future for yourself and for the planet?
Thank you. I often talk about trends. Sorry, not trends, but trends that move into scenarios. And when I talk to business people, they're normally like 3 scenarios that we look at. So the middle one is the business plan that you write so that you can give it to your bank for a loan or an overdraft, or you can give it to a business partner. But we need to create 2 other kinds of scenarios for our businesses, and that being a very positive, like you're going to get some amazing clients, something is just going to go viral and you're going to get so much business. How are you going to cope with that? What does it look like in terms of staffing and cash flow and manufacture, etc.? And the other one is the opposite, like, what if COVID was not the last major disruption and things are going to get really bad and you're going to lose clients, or your clients can't pay you? What are you going to do with your staff and your infrastructure and your capital investments and things? So you need those are good solid scenarios for businesses. But lately I've been playing around with another set of scenarios to kind of understand the world that we're in. And I haven't kind of really nailed them yet, exactly what I'm trying to explore. But as we started this call and I was looking at the new channel, and I thought, oh, that's a good name for it. So the middle scenario is normal. The middle scenario is we're doing the stuff we're doing and we're trying to do it better and we're trying to keep up, and artificial intelligence is challenging us, and how are we going to respond? And because things are escalating, because we're in an exponentially paced world, we're moving faster and faster trying to keep up. And it's a bit exhausting. And some people will fall off this kind of rapid treadmill because they cannot keep up. Then there is a good, positive, for me, a positive scenario, that is what I'm going to label today the new scenario. So you got normal and you got new. And the new scenario is, let's rethink how we're going to do this. Do we really want to be running faster and faster? Do we really need to keep, earning more and, having increasing GDP? What about reassessing our values and reassessing what good looks like and reassessing thriving as opposed to just making more money? And we can explore that. And then we're free to have conversations and collaborations and work together to co-create a beautiful preferred future where everybody gets to experience something, where every stakeholder is embraced. That we don't say that just because someone doesn't speak the way that we do or come from the university that we come from or something that we don't need to consider, them. We're going to make decisions on their behalf or on behalf of the planet, So we really need to understand that. And that's kind of looking at, we talk about the triple bottom line being in a company, being planet, profit, and people. But I'd like to add a fourth one. So in that picture, we are looking at the planet and the people. And obviously, we do need to make some kind of profit. There needs to be some financial movement. But really, we're underlining all of this with purpose. What is the purpose for ourselves, investing ourselves in this scenario? And that is my preferred future. But on the other side, there is a nostalgic scenario. So you've got new, normal, and new, and nostalgic. And nostalgia is very often where we find people who are retaliating against all of the innovation and changes. They're saying, no, it has to be like it was in the past, back in my day, back when things were like this, back when I could understand how to speak to people without offending them by saying something nice. Back when, and that nostalgia really indicates for people a time and place where they felt safe or where their in-group felt safe. And sometimes those in-groups are the ones that are being challenged because more people are getting a voice in this new scenario. And that challenges the nostalgic scenario for some people. So a nostalgic scenario is very much choosing a place in the future, a scenario that is good and protected for this group of people, but not necessarily for anyone else. And I think it is a shame that anybody comes up with that scenario because we are very creative, amazing human beings that can do so much. I think it's just really shoddy futures work to create a small-minded scenario where we could create something that is absolutely amazing as long as we're talking together and collaborating and working together to co-create that.
That's very beautifully said, Charlotte. Now, my initial thought about that is, even if there are people that have different perspective from myself, I try my best not to judge them, but rather meet them where they are and understand their fears, their desires, and aspirations, because we come from different backgrounds, right? And our backgrounds shape us the way that we are right now. So I would love to, this is the reason why we have this show on the new channel, so that we can have different perspectives from different people and be able to use those different perspectives also to how can I better say it, not color but inform my decisions, and also my all the things that I am accepting or using in my life. Okay, so this is a very good conversation, Charlotte. We can talk for one more hour. However, I know you're a very busy person with a lot of things that you're doing, and I don't want to keep you from your audience also, from other people who would like to speak with you. So how can our viewers get to know more about you? How can they follow you on social media, get to know more about you and your book?
All right, thank you. So I've given some links, which I'm sure someone will share for me shortly, but on my Linktree account, you can find my latest webinar that will be up in about 3 weeks' time, I think. And you can find my LinkedIn profile and my Amazon author page. I write a couple of short books. So I've written, a book called Futures Alchemist, about the narrative of the future. But I also write shorter books of about 10,000 words, which is about an hour-long read. And those, I love writing. and they're based on some of the webinars that I've done. Because I want them to be conversation pieces. I want someone to read them and email me and say, I agree, I disagree, I've had a different experience. And if you do connect with me and you see the webinars that come up, a lot of them will be listed on the Futures Alchemist website. It gets updated every 2 months or so in terms of the events. But those webinars, like I said, I very intentionally try and find people from different parts of the world. One of my most moving moments was I had a bunch of people on a webinar, but there were 2 futurists, one from Mexico, one from Pakistan, in my talk that I was running from Cape Town. And I presented my ideas, and then we had conversation and debate. And to hear these 2 people from different parts of the world being able to find common ground on something is exactly what I think we should be doing, is sharing and understanding different parts of the world and people from different backgrounds, so that we can understand, like you said, what are those fears and concerns that they have, and how can we understand and respect that, so that we can find a place that is in common and good for all of us. So please, do connect with me and share ideas or disagree or give examples of anything you've experienced, because that's how we learn and grow. That's how we co-create together. Because whereas there are potentially many futures, eventually we're all going to be experiencing something, some reality, and it should be better for more people than it is at the moment in the experience that we're having today.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for being part of the community of change makers and key opinion leaders. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and practical action for our viewers.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate this, and I really appreciate everything that has been happening on this channel and the work that you're doing. I think it is just so important that we hear about that. Thank you very much for the invitation to share with you and your listeners today.
Our pleasure. So, dear viewers, thank you so much for choosing to spend your Thursday morning with us. Thank you all so much for being here, and I'll see you next Thursday, June 22, 2023, again, 10:30 a.m. Philippine Standard Time. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. God bless everyone.